This is the largest portfolio I've ever seen that comprises of only index funds. The person started investing in 2020, and as per Indian standards, this is a very unique portfolio. Let's dive in. Sushmit, hi, welcome to Portfolio Breakdown with Deserve.
Hi Yash.
This is an all-index portfolio.
Wow.
And not a small amount. 2.89 crore portfolio, invested amount was 2.89 crore, which has grown to 3.6 crores. 100% of the portfolio is in equity mutual funds. 99.9% of that is index funds.
Wow.
Before we go deep into it, it's my responsibility to tell a little bit about this individual. This portfolio comes to us from Surat. It is owned by a businessman who is 43 years old. And the first investment of this individual was during COVID in 2020. But it wasn't an index fund that individual bought. It was a mid-cap fund, a very small amount, right? I think some 60,000. Ever since then, the strategy has completely changed. All of the rest of the 2.8 crores has been bought through index funds. So let's dive deep into it, right? First of all, entirely done by themselves. The businessman has bought all of these funds through direct route. The entire cost of the portfolio is just 0.18%. That's almost like 60,000-70,000 rupees. Not a lot. So great job there done on the cost. And let's come down into the actual funds that this individual have.
This is quite amazing. You don't get too many businessmen from Gujarat doing only index funds, but kudos to this gentleman. Firstly, I think, we should celebrate investors who are able to keep it simple and keep it cheap. We have time and time again in our calls with our clients, in our episodes, spoken about the importance of simplicity and cost effectiveness. And maybe I'll spend a few seconds explaining why they are important.
Right.
Why is simplicity important? The most important factor in compounding is time.
Right.
How much time you spend. And sometimes we, in the lure of returns, we complicate. And when you complicate, it becomes very difficult to spend time in the market. The second is, as we always say, the only thing about return that is in our control is the cost. Right? The lower you keep the cost, the higher probability that you will make higher returns.
Right.
And frankly, 0.18% TER is
the lowest. It's the lowest you can go.
It's the lowest you can go, right? So fantastic job.
Yeah. And if we just dive deeper into what kind of index funds, I can see 51% of the entire portfolio is in a Nifty 50 index, another 31 lakhs in the next Nifty Next 50, then Nifty midcap 150, then Nifty small cap, then Nifty micro cap. So that person has built the portfolio beautifully in some sense in terms of the diversification, owning all parts of the market through an index passive strategy. I always ask you, how do you fix a portfolio? How do you fix a portfolio? Right? What would you say? Is there anything to fix here? And if that is, what would that be?
They always say, right? Why fix something that's not broken? I don't think this is broken, but is it optimal? If you ask me, there are a couple of small things that this person could do. Number one, you don't need to have so many index funds. If the person has decided to be an investor in passive, then they could have 3 funds, which is Nifty 50, Nifty midcap, and Nifty small cap.
Right.
That would be good enough.
Right.
And I think that should cover the entire market and would give you enough liquidity as well,
Sure.
if they require. So I think one is, can you simplify 13 odd funds?
Right. So, and I want to ask a question here, Sushmit. For our viewers, right, does it matter which AMCs index fund you buy? If both the AMCs, supposedly here I can see Nifty 50 index is purchased through 2 AMCs. Is there a difference in those portfolios? Why would somebody go for 2 different AMCs here?
There is, theoretically, if you look at index fund performances, there is a lot of literature around how different fund houses deliver on index fund performances.
Okay.
It looks very simple on the outside, which is I buy what is there in Nifty 50.
Yeah.
That's it. There is something called tracking error.
Okay.
Which is, sometimes it's not easy to replicate what is there in the index.
Okay.
Point to point. So sometimes you get too much flows, you're not able to buy, a lot of things happen.
Right.
So tracking errors is a concept in index funds that one should look at. typically if you look at funds with higher or fund houses with higher tracking error, as they call it, you could stay away from them. So the only way to select between two index funds is cost and tracking error.
Okay.
Those are the two things that you should look at if you're trying to buy an index fund.
All right. Is it easier to figure the tracking error?
It's reported on the fact sheets.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So there is actually a merit in choosing which index fund, even though it invests into the same stocks.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
No, that's actually very insightful. Let's simplify this like that. I think the person has 13 or 14 index funds. You don't need those
3.
many. You can bring this down to 3. And that would further simplify the simplicity.
Yeah.
Right?
There's only one thing that I would caution this gentleman and viewers as well, which is, sometimes passive or index investing could lead to underperformance as well.
Okay.
Underperformance vis-a-vis other options, right, which is active funds. And let me paint 2-3 scenarios where this could happen.
Okay.
So most of the times, most indices are dominated by, or the weights are by the larger companies, right? And as we have seen, when the growth is plentiful or the growth is abundant, the mid and the smaller companies do better. Right? So you may get trapped. What we call this in investing is trapped by size.
Okay.
Right. So you could get trapped by size because that's the way index weights are. The second risk or the second scenario where one has to be careful is if 5 or 6 companies start dominating the index. We saw this in the US, right?
Especially with the AI.
Max, The Max started with Max 7, started with FANG, if you remember. Then
moved
Max
to
7,
Mag 7.
then Max 5, and now we are left with 1 or 2.
Right.
So that is the other scenario where the investors should be careful, which is that if the entire index returns is dominated by 4, 5
full of
stocks,
those companies,
it gets a little, I would recommend caution.
Understood. No, that's actually, again, super insightful, Sushmit. Could you just summarize how should you select the index funds?
How to select? You have to look for 2 things, the TER or the total expense ratio.
Sure.
And the tracking error.
Got it.
These are the 2 things. Higher the tracking error, not so sure. Lower the TER, the better.
Got it. And you said that there are chances when index investing should be looked at from a risk lens as well, right? What, if you could summarize that as well?
So the risk happens in 2 scenarios. The first scenario is what we just saw playing out in the US, which is a few stocks carry the brunt of the index returns. That obviously is never a great time for index investing. So if 4, 5, 6 stocks account for majority of the index returns, you should be careful. That is scenario 1. Scenario second is the way indices are constructed. They are constructed with the heavier or the larger companies have more weight. So if the economic growth is plentiful, if the prosperity is abundant, then typically the mid and small companies do well as too, and that you may then miss out.
Understood. No, this is fantastic. I think it gives a very clean view on how this individual could essentially bring down 13 index funds to probably 3 or 4 in his portfolio. Sushmit, thank you so much for doing this. I will see you again in the next episode.
Thank you.
If you would like to review your portfolio on the Deserve app, scan the QR code on the screen or download using the link in the description below. If you would like to get featured on this series and have your portfolio reviewed, fill out the form by clicking on the link in the description below.